From stories across the globe to stories here at home, this is the National News Broadcast. A very good evening to you. I'm Sharifa Tahir.
A very good evening indeed. I'm Charita Minipurarachi, and now let's move on to the headlines for tonight's news. 229 billion rupee relief package from the government. 5,000 rupee monthly allowance for public employees, pensioners and disabled soldiers. 1,000 rupee supplementary allowance for Samurdhi beneficiaries. Taxes levied on essential commodities and medicinal drugs revoked. Purchasing price of 1 kilogram of paddy increased to 75 rupees. State Minister Susil Premajand removed from post. United Nations commend country's green agriculture program. Memorandum of Understanding on Buduput Mapir Harasara Pension Scheme inked. On to those and other stories in detail now, and starting off with local stories. The government decides to extend many relief for the public considering the rising of cost of living in the country. Accordingly, the Ministry of Finance has said that a monthly allowance of 5,000 rupees will be provided for all state sector employees along with many other reliefs during a period of 1 year. These remarks were shared during a special media briefing held last night at the Ministry of Finance. Minister Basil Rajapaksa announced his relief package at the media briefing. A total of 229 billion rupees have been allocated by the government for the entire relief package. Accordingly, the government has decided to extend a monthly allowance of 5,000 rupees for all state sector employees from the month of January. The relevant allowance will also be granted for the employees in government and semi-government as well as statutory boards as well. Minister Basil Rajapaksa said that efforts have been made to convene private sector employees and relevant unions to discuss on the possibility to provide a similar monthly allowance. He said that the private sector employees continues to pay the salaries of their employees even though their companies were closed down due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, he said that the government expects the private sector employees to provide the additional allowance for their employees.
හම්පොතන් ව්‍යවසායකයන් සියලු දෙනාම තමුන්ගේ සේවක සේවිකාවන් වෙනුවෙන් අතිරේක දීමනාවක් ලබා දෙයි කියලා අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
The 5,000 rupee monthly allowance will also be granted for pensioners and disabled soldiers during the year 2022. The government has decided to extend an additional allowance of 1,000 rupees for Samurdhi beneficiaries, apart from the present monthly allowance of 3,500 rupees. Minister Basil Rajapaksa said that all essential food items and medicinal drugs will be exempted from all taxes levied at present, which would result in a decline of price rates. Minister Basil Rajapaksa said that special taxes will be imposed based on the recommendations of the relevant ministries and institutions to safeguard local production and farmers and to make all essential food items and medicinal drugs free of taxes. He said that necessary funds for these efforts have already been allocated, therefore no new taxations will be imposed under these initiatives.
ඒ නිසා අලුතෙන් කිසිම බද්දක් හෝ වෙන මේකක් අපි දාන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
Meanwhile, the finance minister said that President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has instructed to stipulate a rate of 75 rupees per kilogram of paddy in the future for the potential losses to the yields of the paddy farmers due to the fertilizer shortage. Accordingly, the finance minister said that a decision was reached to provide a supplementary rate of 25 rupees per kilogram on paddy in addition to the existing certified price of 50 rupees in case of a decline of the harvest. He further said that the consumer will not be impacted from this move. Minister Basil Rajapaksa said that deliberations were made on how to resolve a problem decline in yields under this initiative, and a decision was reached to provide an additional 25 rupees with the certified price of 50 rupees despite the losses. Cabinet of Ministers has granted approval to re-implement the concept of Ape Vavamu Ratanagamu. Accordingly, the government has decided to extend an allowance of 5,000 rupees for an individual who opts to start home gardening in a land plot up to 20 perches. Also, the government has decided to provide an allowance of 10,000 rupees as per the extent of the land, subjected to a minimum of 20 perches and a minimum of an acre to engage in a home gardening activity. The government has taken steps to provide an encouraging allowance of 5,000 to 10,000 rupees for the relevant relevant landowners after a period of 6 months based on the success of the cultivations. Minister Basil Rajapaksa encouraged home gardening initiative in an effort to avert a possible food shortage. He said that the increase of production as well as savings are the basis of this reasoning. Steps have been taken to provide a kilogram of wheat flour at a concessionary price rate of 80 rupees for state labour families. Accordingly, the Cabinet of Ministers has decided to provide maximum of 50 kilograms of wheat flour for each family per month. Minister Basil Rajapaksa extended his gratitude to all citizens for tolerating the difficult period suffering during the lockdowns. He said that the government has to experience many difficulties while initiating social welfare measures, including the distribution of 5,000 rupee allowance twice and the vaccination program.
In the meantime, the United Nations commended Sri Lanka's Green Agriculture Programme. This was stated at a meeting held between UN Assistant Secretary General Kanni Wignaraja and President Gotabaya Rajapaksa at the Presidential Secretariat this morning. UN Assistant Secretary General Wignaraja serves as the United Nations Development Programme's Assistant Administrator and Director of the Regional Bureau for Asia and the Pacific. UN Assistant Secretary General Wignaraja said Sri Lanka was ranked 87th out of 165 countries in the 2021 Sustainable Development Report, moving 7 points ahead from previous year's ranking. The possibility of attracting foreign investors to the Green Agriculture Programme by further developing these conditions was also discussed. The President pointed out the steps being taken by Sri Lanka to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals while seeking solutions to the socio-economic impacts caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The President said that a comprehensive mechanism has been set up for the purpose, including the Presidential Task Force on Economic Revival and Poverty Alleviation and the Presidential Task Force on Creating a Green Sri Lanka and Sustainable Solutions to Climate Change. UNDP Resident Representative Robert Yoham, Deputy Resident Representative Marlene Hervik, Secretary to the President P.B. Jayasundara, Principal Advisor to the President Lalit Weeratunga were also present.
And meanwhile, co-cabinet spokesman Minister Ramesh Patrana says that present government has been exemplary in mitigating the state sector expenditure by reducing expenses. He made these remarks while taking part in the media briefing held today to announce cabinet decisions. Minister Ramesh Patrana said that the present government is a fine example on the mitigation of state expenditure. He said that the President of the Fees has been able to save 3 million rupees worth expenditure annually. He added that the present government has taken measures to limit state sector misuse by reducing fuel expenditure to provide all those benefits to the public. He also said that the tourism industry in the country is on the rise and the workers in the country are focusing on more foreign employments. The minister said that the country recorded its highest export revenue in year 2021. He added that the required backdrop to transform the country back to its progressive state following a difficult period will be laid in the year 2022. Minister Uday Gammanpila made remarks over the Trincomalee oil tank farm. Minister Uday Gammanpila said that the Trincomalee oil tank farm complex was handed over to India from the agreements reached in 1987 and 2003. Also, he said that 99-year lease was agreed in the year 2017. He added that apart from 14 tanks, the government was able to retrieve 15 tanks. Remarks were shared over the social media activism during the media briefing. Minister Dalasala Peruma said that the freedom of expression should be protected in any progressive, disciplined, democratic society. He said that it is a fundamental condition.
And now let's take a look at several cabinet-approved proposals. The Cabinet of Ministers has granted approval to award the procurement to purchase 500 new buses of 32 seating capacity to Sri Lanka Transport Board under the Indian Loan Grant Scheme. The relevant proposal was presented by Minister Pavitra Vaniarachi. The budgets 2021 and 2022 proposed to replace the taxes and levies imposed under various statutory laws with a single tax to increase the efficiency of tax collection on liquor, cigarettes, telecommunications, betting and gaming and vehicles. Budget 2022 has proposed to increase the value-added tax of financial services and to exempt medical equipment, devices and chemicals donated to government hospitals and the Ministry of Health. The Attorney General's clearance has been received for the Special Goods and Services Tax Bill and the Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill prepared by the legal draftsman in this regard. Accordingly, Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal presented by Minister Basil Rajapaksa to gazette the relevant bills and submit for parliamentary approval subsequently. The Cabinet of Ministers has granted approval for the amendment of Public Administration Circular 3/2016 to eliminate salary anomalies in teacher principal services. The relevant proposal was presented by Minister Dinesh Gunawardena. The Cabinet of Ministers has also granted approval for the promotion of the program to install battery energy storage systems for rooftop solar systems. Accordingly, the proposed program will be implemented based on the recommendations of the Cabinet subcommittee appointed in this regard. The relevant proposal was presented by Minister Gamini Lokuge. After reviewing the existing 3 agreements with India on the Trincomalee oil tank complex, both countries have reached an agreement to implement a joint development project. Accordingly, the majority shares of the development project will be allocated to Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and the joint initiative will be implemented through a company named Trinco Petroleum Terminal Private Limited. The relevant proposal was presented by Minister Udaya Gamampila.
And meanwhile, health authorities say that they currently possess the ability to manage the spread of Omicron variant in the country. Deputy Director General of Health Services Dr. Hemant Herath pointed out that the public should receive their booster vaccine without delay to limit the viral outbreak, complications and fatalities.
We know that most of the time we get news and sometimes forecasts related to the Omicron variant, and people are talking about catastrophic increase of Omicron patients in the country, and this is not an impossible situation. However, everything depends on the behavior of our citizens of this country, whether it is Omicron or Delta or any other variant. This will be fast spreading only if people let it spread. That means if they don't adhere to the health guidelines and if they don't get their vaccination appropriately, there is a possibility of rise in cases in the coming days. But we know that if we can adhere to the health guidelines, this can be controlled and contained, for which we need to make sure that even though the country is open for social and economic activities, it is important to adhere to the health guideline to the letter and get your vaccination appropriately, so that whether it is Omicron or any other variant, we can control COVID. There are reports about some other type of variants detected in different parts of the country, and the experts of the health ministry are reviewing all these reports and other publications and other things, and they will provide the necessary recommendations to the ministry whether to act upon these reports or not. And at this moment, all these things are reviewed by such experts, and depending on their recommendations, we will take appropriate action. However, at this moment, there is basically nothing to be concerned, because all these reports are still very fresh and we need to verify the facts and the other data related to it to come to a conclusion. We have observed that large proportion of people have been reluctant to get the 3rd dose of vaccine, and this is also another area of concern as far as the health ministry is concerned. Even though the vaccine is freely available, even at this moment, only 4 million persons out of approximately 11 million people who have got the 2nd dose has got the 3rd dose or the booster dose of the vaccine. So therefore, I would like to request everyone that getting the appropriate 3rd dose of vaccine is the only way to get together with this adhering to the health guidelines to protect yourself from the infection. So therefore, please take this vaccine without any further delay.
The Association of Medical Specialists in Sri Lanka has requested the public to strictly adhere to health guidelines and receive the booster vaccine dose in order to protect from Omicron variant. The association in a statement said that a potential spread of Omicron variant in the country will not be averted if the public fail to adhere to these instructions. The association has further indicated that even though the complications of Omicron variant are much limited compared to Delta variant, spreads much is more than faster than the other variants of COVID-19. A meeting between Minister ChannelEye Rupavahini and Sri Lanka Public Health Inspectors Association was held at the Health Ministry premises today. The ministry appreciated the success of the national vaccination program as well as commitment of the public health inspectors in the program. Directing his attention on the issues pertaining to public health inspectors, the minister instructed the officials to study the relevant issue and facts to take positive steps in this regard. The minister said that measures to make the vaccination card compulsory when entering public places are in process. A total of 33,958,305 vaccine doses have been inoculated to the people in the country under the COVID-19 immunization program. Accordingly, 15,994,809 persons have received the first dose of the vaccine, while 13,849,314 have received both the doses. A total of 41,014,182 have received the boosted vaccine thus far. The Director General of Health Services confirmed 18 COVID-19 deaths related, which occurred yesterday.
State Minister Susil Premajantha has been removed from the state ministerial post with immediate effect. Issuing a statement, the President's Media Division has indicated that the decision has been taken as per the powers vested in the President. Former Minister Premajantha held the portfolio of State Minister of Education Reforms, Open Universities and Distance Learning Promotion.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa directs instructions to relevant authorities today to maintain the existing methodologies exercised by the Grade Medical Officers Transfer Board in the future. The relevant instructions were directed after considering the facts presented during a discussion held with the Government Medical Officers Association at the Temple Trees. Pointing out that crises would occur from changing the existing methodologies based on stances of certain officials, the Prime Minister instructed the Health Ministry officials to act in accordance with the Establishment Code along with the trade unions without inconvenience in the government while navigating to political ideologies. Chairman of the Government Medical Officers Association, Dr. Anuruddha presented a proposal indicating that medical administration should be kept under one category without dividing into two categories, namely senior and junior. Minister ChannelEye Rupavahini and Secretary to the Prime Minister Gamini Senrath were present at this meeting. Signing of Memorandum of Understanding to initiate Buduput Mapiya Harusara and Buduput Harusara Puja Social Security Beneficiary Schemes was held today under the patronage of the Prime Minister. The event was held at the Ministry of Buddhisasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs. Commissioner General of the Department of Buddhist Affairs Sunandakarya Peruma and Chairman of Sri Lanka Social Security Board Saman Haduragama signed the MOUs accordingly. The relevant pension schemes has been initiated to ensure the social welfare of the elderly patients of Buddhist monks who are between the ages of 25 to 59. The monthly pension will be allocated based on the requirement of the donors who contribute financially for the scheme. The pension will be provided for the recipients after they pass the age of 60 years. The Prime Minister, who arrived at the Ministry of Buddhisasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs to resume duties for the year 2022, was welcomed by the Ministry Secretary Professor Kapila Gunawardena and the Ministry staff. Ministry Secretary Professor Gunawardena presented a summary of progress achieved by the Ministry to the Prime Minister. During this occasion, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa instructed the officials to accelerate the measures taken to provide lavatories and other hygienic facilities not available in temples in the country. State Minister Vidura Vikramanayake was present on this occasion.
Moving on to more local stories, today is the second day of the Sri Lankan leg of the Queen's Baton relay for the 2022 Birmingham Commonwealth Games. The relay reached the Victoria Dam in Kandy today. The Queen's Baton relay leading up to the 2022 Birmingham Commonwealth Games will be in Sri Lanka for 4 days during its international journey, covering 72 countries. Accordingly, the Queen's Baton relay began yesterday from Colombo and reached the Victoria Dam in Kandy this morning. A simple yet colourful ceremony with various Sri Lankan cultural performances was organised on top of the dam to welcome the flaming torch. The torch was handed over to the engineer in charge of the Victoria Dam, Vasantha Ehelapitiya, by Secretary to the Olympic Committee of Sri Lanka, Maxwell De Silva, during the ceremony. Subsequently, Sri Lankan national and international medal-winning athletes and Sri Lanka police officers placed the flaming torch upon a special platform built at the dam. Following the ceremony at the Victoria Dam, the relay reached the Ranabima Royal College in Kandy. A special ceremony to welcome the flaming torch was organised at the college premises. Commonwealth Games 2022 will be held in Birmingham, England from July 28 until August 8, 2022. The Baton arrived to the country from the Maldives yesterday and will head to Bangladesh following the 4-day tour in Sri Lanka.
And the book titled Janapati Alochane, compiled by the Government Information Department, was presented to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa today. The book was presented by Director General of Government Information Mohan Samarayka. The book provides an analysis of the pragmatism of vistas of prosperity and splendor policy statement over the past 2 years.
Attorney at law Pratibha Mahanamaheva says certain Tamil organizations are engaging in racially discriminative efforts targeting the Geneva Human Rights Council meeting scheduled in February. He pointed out that the statement made, citing that genocidal entities should not participate in the Velvetithure Kite Festival, an event with a long history, is such an effort taken by those groups. Attorney at law Pratibha Mahanamaheva said that the pro-LTTE diaspora is expecting to point out the term genocide at the Geneva Human Rights Council meeting scheduled in February, targeting the country's war veterans. He said that those who are being controlled by the LTTE diaspora are in the country as well as in the parliament. He added that the Kite Festival has been taking place from the ancient days and often participated by state leaders. However, he said that there is an objection of some sort over the participation of state leaders. He further said that these entities are taking these efforts even though no evidence suggests such a situation, as the Geneva Human Rights Council is set to convene from February to March this year.
And with that, we conclude tonight's news. Join us tomorrow at the very same time. Stay safe. Good night.
Have a pleasant night.